Today we're going to be talking about all things spiritual awakening. As you already know, I'm sure a massive spiritual awakening is happening on our planet right now. And this massive spiritual awakening is a big gift. It's a gift for our planet because it will allow for the breakthrough that we need to see happen, for the systems that are currently in place to dissolve, and for everyone to rise into their greatness. So today I'm going to be taking your questions. I'm going to be answering some questions that people have already asked about spiritual awakening. So if there is anything that you want to talk about in terms of spiritual awakening, I really invite you to ask any questions. I'm here for you. Like, what is spiritual awakening? How does it affect you? Why is it important? How can you prepare for it? These are all the things I'm going to be sharing about. And as you know, my work includes many different things, but the umbrella of it all is about awakening to our fullest, highest potential for all beings, all things. And I personally feel that I came to this planet with a very specific mission to help our planet awaken. And that came through initially as being a medical doctor, but that was very limiting. Working as a coach, I have the power and potential and capacity to work with people on their minds, their bodies, their spirits, their emotions. So what happens when you go through a spiritual awakening is that you awaken to the fact that you are greater than your body, than yourself, than your name, who you are, your identity, your persona. That becomes very small when you spiritually awaken, because you realize that you have a soul and that everything you do affects others. You're living an interdependent life. You're living a co-creation here on the planet. And the best part of a spiritual awakening is you realize that this is a game that you get to create. That life is not happening to you, it's happening for you, and that you specifically came to this planet to evolve and grow and ascend and rise and learn things so that your soul could have experiences so you can become wiser. So life, when you realize that life is a game, it becomes less serious, and you can really take the time to learn the lessons versus being in a victim mode or staying angry. You get to create a joyful life, a beautiful life that you really love. So for me personally, my spiritual awakening is what allowed me to break through and break out of the old system paradigms, from working in a hospital 9 to 5, from doing all the things that kind of felt like an obligation. I just stopped, and I went and I traveled around the world, and I had different initiations and activations. And that allowed me to live life on purpose and to help others in the process do the same. So I'm very passionate about spiritual awakening. And if you're following my channel, I do believe that you have already gone through some sort of spiritual awakening. And if you have, I invite you to leave some comments about your spiritual awakening and what that means for you and what it has meant for you. And even if people are curious about a spiritual awakening and you're not quite sure if you've even gone through one yet, this is a great video to support you in how you can prepare for it and how you can make it happen. So the thing is that we have the power to make ourselves awaken even more. And it comes through the practices that we do every day, how we spend our time, what we eat, what we consume, what we surround ourselves with, because everything is vibration and energy, and everything is contagious. And energy can't be created or destroyed. And as humans, we are social mammals, so we affect each other. So when you're going through a spiritual awakening, you have a stronger sense and intuition and knowing and ability to perceive when situations are affecting you or when you are affecting situations. And the idea is to grow in your spiritual power so much that in growing in your spiritual power, you affect the world. You decide life, your certainty in what you want to create and do and be in this world amplifies so much that you decide the trajectory of your life and you wake up to your fullest potential. So everyone comes onto this planet with a specific blueprint and potential. We could say that's your destiny, but not everyone lives their destiny because of certain things that happen. Maybe you have troubles and challenges and you're not really sure how to make sense of them and allow them to be supportive in your life. So it causes you stress and then you just kind of do nothing, or you have a breakdown, or you just live a mediocre life because of fear and you're scared to change and you're scared of your own potential and or you doubt yourself, right? So the idea is when you awaken your spiritual power, and you can do that through many different types of practices, and I share about these practices and I'll go into some of these practices. When you awaken that power within yourself, it's like you take the steering wheel of life, and even though there's fear and even though there's challenges, you rise up anyway, and you take chances anyway, and you don't know how things are going to unfold, but you keep going anyway. And the person who is the most certain is the one who always wins. So if you become really clear and certain about your life, and this is your power as a creator being, then you can create any life you desire. You live in freedom. And that's what I'm most passionate about, is supporting people to live in that freedom, to live that ultimate life. And awakening your spiritual power is I believe, the trick. It's the trick of it all. It's like how you manifest, how you make things happen. So in terms of how you prepare for it, so sometimes spiritual awakening can be really spontaneous. Sometimes it's gradual. So for me, I had like a mixture of both. I had spontaneous moments and I had moments where I just was gradually awakening through experiences, through the people. So the way you can prepare is who you surround yourself with. By listening to talks like this, you have moments of activation and soul code remembering, and dormant parts of you start to awaken because speech, vibration, presence from mentors, teachers, like as a spiritual teacher, that's what I do. My energy spontaneously awakens people to knowings deep within themselves. So just being in the energetic fields of people and teachers who have awakened and are teaching on these topics is a great way to spontaneously awaken more of your power. Other things that you can do, like I talked about, which both prepare you and support your awakening, are practices like meditation, yoga, qigong, breath work, things that are mindful, intentional practices. These awaken your consciousness even more. Even conscious sex, right? Sacred sexuality, tantra. I love Tantra so much because it is a powerful practice that awakens your sexual energy, which is similar to your Kundalini, which is similar to your life force energy. It is your life force energy. And when you move that energy throughout your body and into different cells, and you activate different energies and codes and vibrations within yourself, so you become more of a superhuman. Also, the foods you consume. There are things in our planet that are making people go to sleep. So if you are eating low vibrational things, putting low vibrational products on your body, and I call this conscious living. And in my Awaken Your Spiritual Power program, there's a whole module on conscious living. People don't realize that the things they are putting on themselves or in themselves keep them sleepy. Even you can have parts of your brain be calcified and sleeping because of what you're consuming and taking in. So when I woke up, I changed the products I used. I changed what I did in my life every single day. And this is what caused my whole consciousness, my perception about life to change. Also, things like travel can awaken your spiritual power. It can awaken your consciousness because you have a new experience, and it basically breaks the paradigm of what you know to be true. So having new experiences with all different kinds of people and getting out of your box that you live in is a really powerful way. And that's why going through programs and classes and learning new things and reading books, and all of these things support your awakening. So when you're actually thinking like, oh my God, what do I do? I always find having a practice that you do every day, something that I like to say keeps you sane, because there's so much energy that starts to move through your body, and there's so much information you start to take in, and you start to realize life is not what you thought it was. Life is different. It's better. And you just are learning. It's like you're honing your craft. So as you're honing your craft, having stability and a practice and a methodology to go through, that's why you see a lot of people go and do a yoga teacher training, or they go and do some kind of, even like Kundalini or some kind of meditation retreat or something. Because what that does is it creates a container for all of this information to be digested, so that you can make sense of it all and you can live your life more on purpose, because you came here for a purpose with a purpose. Life is not just this like random experience that we're having. Not to be spiritually awakened people. It's definitely on purpose. We're living life on purpose. It's about cultivating this consciousness. Why? Why would we even want to do any of this? Well, it's because then we can change the planet so that we can live our ultimate lives, healthy, happy, joyful lives that are fulfilling, that we feel satisfied, we feel content, and there is harmony and there is love between all beings and things, and we are in a relationship that we love, and we have friends that we love, and everything is supportive and empowering. So if you are not living that reality, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It means that you haven't tapped into it yet. And that is what guides like myself are here on the planet doing, supporting you through that threshold of your awakening, of your power, because you deserve it, because it's available to everyone. It is your birthright to live a life that is rooted in your values, in your truth. And if you have desires, you are here to make them happen. Your desires are your soul speaking to you. If you're drawn to people, places, things, go, because that's a clue, a key. And having mentors along the way, especially during a spiritual awakening, I have found to be so, so powerful. And so let's talk a little. So a lot of times it's hard when people are stuck in like pain, like emotional pain, any kind of pain, suffering, depression, anxiety, anything that is anything other than love, enthusiasm, joy, inspiration, anything other than that is a form of suffering. And so when people are in suffering, it's hard for them to see outside. They actually just want to like get rid of the suffering. And obviously when you reach a certain level of consciousness, you move away from that mentality and you're focused more on what you want and less of what you don't want. So I often focus on the want part. And I know that it's hard for people that are in the suffering aspect to even hear this. So it's funny, like I really should have talked about this in the beginning, because people may have dropped off from watching this because they're more in the suffering and they can't even hear about where you can go because they're so busy wanting to get out of where they are. And so if that's something that you're in, that wanting to break free from any kind of suffering or pain, know that you're not alone. It's like the majority of the population, and there's stats that show only 1% of people actually change their lives. So you're going to want to listen up, because the way in which you shift out of the current state that you're in is you need to do something different. And that includes thoughts and being able to identify and see where, and it's not that it's unfortunate to say it, but the truth is we are our own problems. Like whenever we're stuck or whenever thing isn't going right, even if you're in a relationship, it's not because of the other person, it's because of you. And you have the power to change that. So it's not it's not shameful. It's just like what it is. And it's like, great, okay, I have this problem and the moment you can take full responsibility and make a change and do a different action and get support and get help, that's when your entire life shifts. So me personally, when I wasn't feeling satisfied in Western medicine and I started traveling the world and having a taste of freedom and getting my activations and learning all the tools and techniques that I teach today, and even discovering that I come from a lineage of Colombian healers and shamans, and literally like blowing my mind of what I thought I was. Having help was the biggest way. Like I went and I saw so many different medicine men and shamans and healers and mentors all around the world, and it was the best because I got to open my mind every time and see where I was living small and living from a place that was not empowering, that was not supportive, that was not fun, right? And then I was like, oh, wow, I have the power to change that. And then that's when I didn't go back to the old things. You know, even if, let's say, if it comes to relationships, sometimes understanding what your role is in a relationship, right? It's like you then never date the same kind of people. Or when it comes to work, it's like understanding if you don't love what you do, you have the power to change that. And then you can do exactly what you love and thrive from that. Like this is a true, real reality. You do not need to suffer at all, ever. And that's what I love about this work that I do, is that it's really helping people find a way out, a new way. And all the while it's empowering. So I would love to hear from you guys about some questions. Some of the questions that you had left in my stories about like questions about spiritual awakening, I have answered, right? And one of the big ones I kept hearing is like, how do you prepare? So I invite you to ask me questions about spiritual awakening, either about your own personal experience or about what you're curious about. Maybe you haven't been going through it, but you want to go through it. Or maybe you've been going through it and you're just like, oh my God, there's so much information. I don't know what's the right practice for me. What's the right thing for me? And that's the point. And so some people are sharing that they're spirit prophecies. Yeah. So when you start to be able to connect to divine energies, this is part of spiritual awakening. So what I was saying is in the beginning was that part of spiritual awakening is realizing that you're more than your body and you're more than your identity. And so you are a vast soul that has lived in lives in the past and lives in the future, and maybe even lives on other planets. And maybe you have your memories of that. And you can start to communicate to the divine, to spirit guides, to other energies that are not seen. And that is a gift of spiritual awakening. And so a lot of the work that I do is connected to communicating with the divine, with spirit as an intuitive guide. And what is also really beautiful is that everyone can do it. Sometimes people think like, oh, that person was born with that gift. It's more that some people are born with it more active and awake, but through a spiritual awakening, everyone can awaken their ability to communicate with divine energies. And it actually makes life so much easier, so much more graceful. And you really realize you're never alone. And that's one of the beautiful things. So I'm just reading some of your comments and questions here. So beautiful. So, my spiritual awakenings started happening gradually, but where it really started to change my life was in 2012. And that's when I did my yoga training. That's when I left. That's when I left Western medicine. That's when I discovered meditation. And since then, it's been a constant accumulation of various types of practices to support the continuing evolution. And it doesn't end. I'm constantly learning new things, new techniques through different mentors, and even through the unseen mentors, right? In terms of spirit guides. And it makes life so much more rich and so much, it's almost like it's more consoling. It makes life more gentle, because you realize the universe is something working for you, not against you. You just need to learn the language of the universe. And through spiritual awakening, I feel that that's what happens. You learn the language of the universe so you can dance in life. And everything is a beautiful dance, and you see everything as a gift. And when you shift your perception to know and see that everything is a gift, you just have a completely different life experience that is so much more enjoyable, so much more beautiful, and more pleasant too. Beautiful. So it's so nice to see you. So someone said, yeah, so I spoke of Kundalini before, and a lot of spirituality philosophies talk about how Kundalini is, we can talk about as like the energy of spiritual awakening. It's an energy that has a consciousness, that has an agenda to support your evolution. And some of how you can know if you're having some Kundalini awakenings is feeling energies in your body. Sometimes it can feel like heat. It could feel like even having certain types of visions and having certain types of spontaneous healings and openings. And when you start to know the difference, the nuances of energy, you start to feel energy everywhere you go. Like when you're with people, you can even start to feel their energy. And part of the work of spiritual awakening is to learn how to manage all the different energies, because sometimes when people actually go crazy, it's because of they can go into psychosis because the Kundalini and the awakening energies are so strong. So these are extreme cases, but if you're working with practices and a mentor to really support you in cultivating the energies in a safe, constructive way so that you are still living a great life that's grounded in reality and not like, ooh, off in la la land, right? And that's the thing why spirituality actually gets a bad rap, and people are like, oh, it's so woo-woo and woo-woo this and woo-woo that. And it's because it's not grounded, and people are not living from a place that is allowing all of this new energy, this spiritual information that you didn't have before, to integrate it into everyday life, because that's the point. So it was so fun to come on here and just give a little poke about spirituality and to give a little poke about consciousness and awakening and how you have the power to do it. And I invite you to join me for my Awaken Your Spiritual Power program. And it's awakenyourspiritualpower.com/3-month immersion. And it's 11 modules, and I created it because there were people who were spiritually awakening and didn't know what to do. So at the time when I created it, it was really a powerful journey that illuminated so much in so many people. And when you get to that page, you can see all the different testimonials. And the idea is that so that you have a practice and something that's grounding for you to cultivate your spiritual power and awakening in a way that is serving, that supports you in creating a life you love and connecting to the truth of who you are, so you can live a life on purpose that's inspiring and joyful and beautiful, because you deserve that. So I send you all so much love. It's always a pleasure to be on here. Send me any messages that you might have. And of course, comment anything you want me to talk about. I always like to, I share right back to your comments. I respond to them in DM. I'm always happy to talk to you and connect and see how we can continue to go deeper beyond Instagram and to really build a mentorship connection because I love supporting people in their journey. So I send you all so much love and wish you a beautiful day. Thank you for being here, and bye for now.